There we are.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg Avagnoni.
bringing you this week's Ascended World. Oh, so yeah, we were just talking about, before we got on, we're just talking about still like what it's been a week and a half since I've come back from Washington, come forward from Washington from our retreat. And yeah, it's things are different. Things are, I want to say bumpy, but in a different way, like not in a, and it's not, this is without any inflection of good or bad. It just is. It's just
Right.
been the, being fine, actually being great for a number of moments. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, like vague anxiety, vague irritation, vague
I'd almost
frustration.
even say depression,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
futility.
Futility.
That's
Yeah.
better
Yeah,
word for it.
and it hits out of nowhere. It usually really isn't attached to anything, and then it goes away. Like, so then it's sort of like, and so it's not anything to really note because overall everything's great, but it's like it's regular and it comes and it goes. So then I'm like, okay, and it's one of those things, it's almost like putting your finger on Mercury going, okay, well then what is this? And then it's gone.
Right.
It's like,
or it's like getting a whiff of a smell.
Yes.
And you're like, where did that come from? And you can't track it down because as soon as you acknowledge it, it's gone.
And I guess maybe,
maybe that's what it is.
That's what it is.
Right. Is
and we
that
should just be happy for it.
Right. The simple acknowledgement of it and then allowing the letting go.
Yeah. Yeah. So we want to talk this week about success and our idea of success and what we do to prevent ourselves from success, because that's really what we've been uncovering for the past week.
Right.
Even in things I was looking at this morning and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yep.
And what it really comes down to is, good morning, Yasmin. It comes down to, we don't really have a conscious understanding of what we believe success is, because everything we have in our reality is a success because we created it.
Right. Right. Simply because it exists.
Yeah.
If it weren't successful, it wouldn't exist.
Right. So when we say the things that we're in want of, right, that we want, that's where we feel unsuccessful because we've yet to create it here, right?
Right.
And manifest it. So,
well, and most of the people that we look at and judge as successful are those that aren't in our day-to-day. They're more people that we're disconnected from. And so you really don't know how they walk through that quote success.
Right.
They can be miserable.
Yes, many are. Right. Many put one face on to the world and another face on when they're out of that.
Right.
But, and that's not everybody. It's just that, as I always say, everybody's got their stuff. Right.
Right. Right.
And you and I have been much more forthright and out there this year about the stuff that we've been going through, because it was it was this repetitive pattern of people like going, oh, well, I just can't get through my stuff. I can't get through this and blah, blah, blah. And, I'm just not as good at it as you are. I'm not as blah, 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 or I'm not as gifted at, and I'm just like, okay, well, the thing is I'll go through stuff all the time. It's just that I'm not sitting here, dwelling on it.
Right.
I mean, right. I do dwell on it, but in a self-development kind of way of what to change, what to shift, and then
productive versus destructive, or more probably the case of status quo, just keeping you where you are.
Right. And people believe that. Those of us who are, out there professionally, right, have no stuff. like doing the spiritual work, they think we have no stuff, or, because if we don't wear it on our sleeves, right, which many do dramatically. So then
Right.
there's that other extreme of, oh my gosh, I'm like a martyr, right? Because
Right.
look at all the
Right.
stuff I'm doing this for everybody else, regardless of this. And it's like, no, you're not. You're doing it for yourself, because that's all we
Right.
really do. It's all for us.
Right. There is no other.
No.
There is no other.
So when we look at success, first of all, many of us use the word success as a term of lack, right? When I am successful, I will be this.
Right. Right.
And that is a term of lack. Instead of, I am successful in my present moment and I will be successful moving forward as I create this stuff. What a difference in energy that is, right?
Right. Well, and this was something that came to me this weekend, is we tend to want to focus on, and I'm using the word project as like a very generality, but like the project of attaining this, or the project of reaching this goal, or accumulating this, or acquiring this. And we're so project driven.
Mm-hmm.
And if we just focus more on, like we've talked about, offering a class and vision boards, where you're looking at feelings versus things. That's a whole different level of success, is when you just start looking at the energies of it.
Yes.
Instead of acquiring this or attaining that, or, you could even look at it from the perspective of attaining that I now believe this.
Right. Right.
And we just are so project driven, and it's the tangibles that drive us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I found myself getting caught in that this weekend, going, well, if I could just get my arms around X, Y, and Z, and it's like, it's still the same.
Yep.
It's still the same.
Well, and it's like, okay, when we start looking at this moment, I am successful right now in this moment for what I've created, right?
Right.
And if
Right.
we say, okay, so if I am successful, so it's taking, it's taking that term, what's that term we use all the time? Creating, having is evidence of wanting, right? Because we create our reality, right?
Right.
So if we say, okay, I am successful in this moment because of all it's in this moment is what I've created. So you're taking ownership and self-responsibility. Chorus 5 in the Adventures in Wonderland program.
One of my favorites.
Right. So if you're taking self-responsibility and ownership of this moment, that I've created all of this perfectly, right? Then it makes it a completely different thing to say, and then let me look at all the elements in this moment that I did so perfectly in success that are showing me what my success will be in an hour or 5 minutes from now, because it's come up to look at me in the face. It's come up to mirror to me. It's come up to give me friction. And that was something that I was looking at this morning, because there's something that's been irritating me about something that I'm doing business-wise. And I'm like, why does this always seem to be an irritation? And then it's like, duh, maybe you don't want to do it anymore, this part of it anymore. It was like,
Right.
And it's like, but I've been doing this since the beginning. No, but like, and it was like this back and forth. And it's like, but so what's then the success? So then I was looking at that going, okay, but maybe my success is doing something else in the time that I eat a lot to do this, and then really having more fun doing it and enjoying that would be a success too. Right. So
yes. Right. Yeah.
So it was like, oh, well, what a difference. Little tweak in perspective created a huge shift in like understanding. And so, we're driven by like what commercials tell us success is, what our parents tell us success is, what our neighbors, what our friends, what our family tell us success is. I look at, I've been doing a lot of looking at the fact, like I left, so it's been 15 and a half years since I left corporate, right? And I had been in corporate for 17 years and I had a very successful career in corporate. I was a very young manager, very young director, blah, 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 all that. And what's interesting is I was held to a certain standard in my life through others, right? Because of that success, right?
Right.
And really, to me, success was being me and not the person that I had pretended to be that, to do those jobs so that I could be seen as successful. How much we do to do that, right?
Right. Right. What occurred to me while you were talking is that we have this collective definition of what success is, and it's very externally based, when actually success is so individual and so relative. And it's not only relative to the individual, but it's relative to the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we don't acknowledge that as a collective
No.
on a conscious level.
Right. And we romanticize and we exalt the idea of this is what it will look like when I am successful, right? And what we don't equate in there is like, so what we think is when I am successful, I will be happy.
Right.
Instead of my success is living my happiness. Oh, that's a completely different energy. Right.
Well, and then you unpack that even further and look at it from the perspective of I'll be happy, success is overcoming these things. So then I must create those things to overcome to then gain that feeling of success.
Right.
Versus, oh, just have it.
Yeah.
Because, I decided to wake up this morning.
Yes. And get out of bed and take a shower and come here.
Right. I mean, and so it's like, I'll never forget a friend of ours who was so proud of herself for getting her spare tire fixed before she went on a long trip. And on the way home from getting it fixed, she had a flat tire.
Yeah.
So did she have the flat tire because she got it fixed?
Right.
Or was it good that she just had the flat tire and that she happened to have the spare?
Yes.
So it's very much just a kind of turning your right and turning your thoughts inside out and saying, okay, am I creating these?
Because I'm preparing for possibilities that then I'm creating. Yes.
Or do I feel that in order to be successful, I have to have something to overcome?
Right. Or for this relationship to be successful, we have to overcome this for this, whatever, to be successful. So yes. And that's what I've been looking at too is, what came to me last week was if you look for something, you're always going to find it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's where I ended up in my inability to sleep last night is I'm looking for the problem why I can't sleep. I'll always find something because I'm looking for something to be wrong.
Right.
Or, oh, well, I did this, or I didn't do this, or, I did this too long, or I, didn't get enough exercise, or I, didn't take this vitamin, or I didn't do this. And it's like, how about just looking at it from the holistic perspective? It's perfect in and of exactly how it is, which equates to it's successful.
Right. Right. So yes, and it's the same thing of, looking at when we have illnesses, when we have chronic conditions, and we have all that kind of stuff, we are successful in their creation because they are there to show us something that we wouldn't otherwise look at. Right. So first we need to thank ourselves for being successful in it. And then it's for us to say, okay, so let me be successful. Now I'm successful in letting it go and like being free of it,
Right. Right. And I think that goes back to a lot of what we talked about on this past retreat is coming to that balance. And that's what we see as the wholeness.
Yeah.
The balance between what you don't want and what you want, and coming to the place where it almost blurs and only becomes what you want. And that to me is success.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we look at, it's interesting because going back to like what I've been looking at from leaving corporate and feeling like I was being punished by a lot of people who are close to me, right? So, subliminally for years, because it was almost like that was a catalyst for them, right? Even though they agreed to it, right? As part of,
Right. Right.
and so it was like interesting to realize that my realization was I was successful in punishing myself because I believed I did wrong by leaving that to remember who I am without those expectations built around me like a shell, right?
Right.
Because then it's like if others are punishing me, then I'm the one punishing myself because then I believe I need to be punished, right? So, and
Right.
that's,
You allow it. Nobody can punish you unless you allow it.
and that came up a lot this week, even very subtly and weird, different, like, and not in big ways, but little ways. And it's like, wow, we have this all the time. And then we think, oh, that's just, it's just Mercury retrograde or it's this or whatever, instead of, oh, well, look at how successful I was in creating that because I'm feeling like I need to be punished. So therefore, I created that for me. Like, even if it's a little bit, just a little bit.
Right.
But so the thing is, okay, so what do we do to shift? Like, how do we shift that? First of all, it's taking a conscious definition of success, like recognizing we can make it a conscious choice, right?
Well, and really examine what you believe your definition is. Like, if I believe I'm to be successful, I have to work this exorbitant amount of time. I have to give up, I'll lose all my free time. I mean, those were things that I looked at, and that make sure that those are things that you truly want as part of your definition of success.
Yeah. Well, and also when we have those thoughts, that's the other thing you and I were talking about. It's like we think about that, so then we create situations where we do that, right? But then,
Right.
but instead of saying that to be a success when I'm working is not my free time, right? Versus,
Yes.
I just love what I do so much that I don't care if it takes my whole life because it's everything I
Well,
breathe, right?
and that means that we've defined work as different than what we
Freedom.
love.
Yes.
Right.
Right. So look at
Yes.
that, right? These are like little tiny things that we have in this undercurrent of, yeah. Also, the other thing that you and I hit on that was a big thing was we have these definitions of what a success would be, like a successful, whatever, say successful job, or having this successful amount of money coming in, or being successful, having a certain, right, or something like that. Well, we have this conscious like idea, right? So we do all these like materialistic, the vision board thing, right?
Right.
And things like that. But then we don't realize underneath it is we have these unconscious beliefs, or mostly unconscious beliefs and thoughts of, well, I can't do that until this, right? I can't
Right.
have that money until I've cleared up all this other gunk, right?
Right.
I can't, or we've set that for ourselves at some level that we're not even conscious of, right? But we realize that all these little hiccups keep on coming up, or these distractions or whatever, or this avoidance, this discomfort. And that's why. It's because we hold these expectations of what we believe successfully reaching what we are wishing to create, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that underneath it, we have these buts, like the ego buts of, no, first I have to do this. First I have to do this. Or here's one. I have to wait for my kids to be out of the house. I have to wait for this. I have to wait to be,
Right.
this age. I have to wait until I'm this weight. I have to wait until I have this much money in the bank. I have to wait until like blah, blah, blah. Like it's all these like,
Until I figure my shit out.
yeah, until I figure my shit out. Well, that's the biggest thing for people like not getting into doing spiritual and energy work, because they think that they have to have it all figured out before they can work with other people. And I always laugh about that and say, you know what? The best work I've done on myself has been working with clients through the years and students, because inevitably stuff that I can't figure out because I'm too close to it looking in my own mirror, I'll
Right.
put on the shelf and have a client come in, and it will be a different flavor of the same ice cream, or the same flavor of different ice cream, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm like,
And it
oh,
just in a different bowl.
yes. And I'll be like, oh, I can see that now. Like, and then I'll be working with them and be like, oh, the light bulb goes on. And I'm always like, oh, I'm so glad to get paid to work on myself.
Well, and technically, since that is just a version of you, you really are just working on yourself.
Right. Right. So to me,
And,
it's like,
and that's presented, you've created that to present to yourself,
right,
to help you.
right, right. And get paid for it, which is that's successful. I'm just saying.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So, like,
But yet we don't define that as success. So
right.
that's a really good example.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great example, because we do, like, and it's very practical, but we do that all the time in all these different ways, right? I'm not going to do this until I lose 20 pounds. I'm not going to do this until, yeah, I have this much money in the bank. I hear that all the time, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Or until I retire. That was a big thing of like the older generation. And I remember that was always a big thing growing up. You would hear, oh, when I retire, when we retire, this and blah, blah, blah. And then like, there's this whole slew of the elders who retired and then just didn't do anything.
Because they didn't know what to, yeah. They spent their whole life building up to something that they had no idea what they really wanted to do, or didn't have the energy to do it, or wasn't that important.
Yeah. So.
Or they worked themselves to death and didn't live long enough to enjoy that.
Right. That's a big one, right? So, there's a lot to look at with that. But the thing is, first and foremost is for us to accept success in the moment, to accept it now, to say I'm worthy, right?
Right.
Let's go through all of our 7 elements from our courses in the Wonderland program, right? So I'm worthy to be successful. I trust that I am.
And allow
it. Yes. I let my guidance, direct me in my success, right?
Right.
I forgive
myself for believing that I wasn't.
Right. I am 100% responsible for my own success. And I take ownership of that right now in accepting that and acknowledging that I am successful right in this moment. Right.
Right. And I embrace that 50% of myself that's the shadow to help me to help me see and acknowledge my success.
Yeah, that is
reflected a lot of them are through the shadow aspect.
Yes, and the bumps on the road, right?
Right.
And I accept it all in unconditional self-love, on look at how beautiful and perfect and whole
and nourished I am by all of that.
Yes. So this is bringing together now, like all of these things. We're going to start talking about how all of these 7 elements of the different in the courses that we've done tie into the bigger picture, and how we then come to this place of, the present and that wholeness, right?
That wholeness. Exactly.
It all incorporates all of that. Right. So, to me that, we were talking about, we look at what's success. We look at everybody else and we're like, oh, well, this person's successful because, well, they have, 50,000 followers, and this person's successful because they make this much money, or they purport to make this much money, or this person's successful because everybody knows their name, and this one's successful because of this. And it's like, but you also, like you said, don't know all the ins and outs and the pieces, right?
Right.
I know a number of people who have thousands and thousands and thousands of followers who, when the camera's turned off, they are a hot mess in their life.
Right.
And I'm not judging that. It's just everybody's got their stuff. right? And the
I
thing
mean,
is,
and you know, if you really take a look at that in our culture today, I mean, everybody would agree that Robin Williams was a hands down success. Nobody would think that he was a failure,
mhm.
but yet it wasn't enough to convince him to stay here and continue doing what he was doing.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, you never know. And that judgment of success is so relative and individual that we can't set it outside of ourselves, which is what we've been doing.
Well, and I think about, so when I was in corporate, yeah, I was considered a success, right? And I was successfully not myself.
Right.
I
Right.
successfully became a picture of what people wanted to believe success was, right? But at the end, you know, at the end, and not but, and at the end of the day, I chose, no, I want to be me and successful, right?
Exactly.
And
Right.
I've been on the journey of realizing what that is and who that is, and ever since. And so at some level, I've recognized I believed I needed to be punished for that, right? Because we are successful in the belief that we have to fill up to other people's expectations of what that is, right?
Right.
So then we
Right.
feel like we're letting them down when we're not that. So then we believe we need to be punished. So then we have hardships that we create for ourselves and challenges that we constantly punish ourselves with, right? Like,
And then they become that distraction of saying, well, okay, I can make up for this by overcoming this or working harder or doing X, Y, and Z to get this managed. And then we just get trapped or lost in those distractions. But
Yeah.
again, it's still a version of success because we're successfully creating those diversions.
Oh yeah. And we're successfully distracting ourselves.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, you know, it's interesting when you start looking at it that way. And then it's like, okay, so now I'm ready to allow my definition of success be a reflection of my happiness, you know, of my vibrant well-being, of prosperity, and, you know, whatever, in every moment. Right. So
Right.
ready, willing, and
Right.
able. And here I am.
It, all an expression of my wholeness, which is my everythingness.
My everythingness. Right. Right. So anything not in everythingness can just flow on, you know, flow on through.
Right.
And I think that's
Right.
really what those moments have been in coming
Right.
to that past, you know, week and a half.
Yeah, because as soon as you look at it, it seems to be gone.
Yeah.
Which I would think would be what flowing through looks and feels like.
Yes. And the difference I have noticed are a couple of things that have come up that would have normally stopped me, right, in the trigger, right? I've just sort of sat with it, not reacted to it, and like watched it flow through. And it was almost like it did, like almost like a breeze just flows like right through, right? And that's where I'm looking around going, where'd that come from? You know, and then it's gone.
Right.
Because I'm like, not, yeah, I'm just, it's weird. It's weird because it's so fluid. It's so much more fluid than ever. Right. But if I stay in this presence of, this is my successful moment.
Yes. Yes. Rather than being uncomfortable in the new level of fluidity, find the comfort in this is what success looks and feels like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that really shifts that moment.
Yeah. Because the discomfort is that fluidity, right? The discomfort is who did that, right? Made me think of, you know, last night we were flipping channels later on at night, and like they had like paranormal caught on tape or something. And I don't watch them very often because I find them so over dramatized. I'm like, oh, seriously? Like, yeah, okay. You know, especially from somebody who experiences spirits and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, okay. But like one guy was standing and there were some like in some ancient place buried basement or whatever. And all of a sudden this guy goes, ah, right. And he's like, something just pulled on my jacket. And there was nobody sitting around, like, you know, you can see in the black light video. And that's really what it's like. It's like, ah, what was that? You know,
Right.
it passes through. And you have a choice of, do I want to be dramatic about it, or do I just want to acknowledge it in that bump, like hitting a speed bump
Right.
and going,
Right.
well, what was that to check? Is there something for me to check? Do I have something on me, you know, or whatever? And then moving on. But that's the discomfort that we have, is we're not used to flowing through that quickly, right? So the discomfort is, oh, wait. So first, you know, it's taking the ownership of, I'm going to stop and look at everything. Right now, it's like, okay, that's not important to stop and look at.
Right. And I'm not taking ownership of that.
Right. Because what I found was almost more disconcerting was when I looked at it, like the whole of me was like, I couldn't force myself to immerse myself in it in terms of like
Right.
stopping.
Yes.
So it was really weird because I was like, I feel like I should want to look at this more closely. And then the bigger voice is like, no.
Why? It's already gone. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the ego's like, but.
Hey, I didn't control that.
How do I deal with this? I don't understand.
Right.
A lot of nah. It's just like, I just hear nah.
Yeah. Right.
And that's been going on. That was going on a lot this weekend. And so I'm like, okay. So then what was left that was bubbling up this morning, I'm like, that was what I was looking at, saying, okay, well, then there's something for me to look at if this is still bubbling up.
Right. Right.
And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, maybe I just don't need to do that anymore.
And you know, what's not successful about that?
Right.
Is coming to the realization that you don't need to continue doing something anymore that wasn't serving you.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and then, okay. So then how is the, you know, the next step is, then how do I change how do we change our idea of success? That's the whole thing is
right.
Acknowledging we are successful in every moment, because our creations are what we at some level have intended. Right.
Right. And what am I failing to acknowledge in all of those moments that I would like to begin acknowledging?
Right.
Because if I want to celebrate every success and I'm hanging so much weight on becoming successful, where can I start accumulating that now in every little moment to where I can fill myself with that and then allow it to overflow?
Yeah. Yep. And so that changes. And all of these things are related to those 7 elements, really. It's coming.
They really are.
Place. And that's why we had been guided to create that whole program, because it's like, for us to really come to that wholeness is to recognize all of those 7 elements in everything, every energy, everything that we do or be or create, and know
every moment.
And they're all whole in that creation.
Right. Even if our judgment tells us otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, like, we have this idea of success. Oh, here's another one. Oh, here's another really subtle one. I am successful if everybody likes me.
Oh, wow. What an impossibility that is.
Right. And yet
but how many feel that way?
So many of us, right?
Right, right.
I had something come up this weekend that I was like, where did that come from? Like, it came from it was so weird. And out of nowhere, I was like, oh, where did that come from? And literally it was that whole thought of, it doesn't matter because you saw it now and now it can go away.
Yeah, it's like you can't put that genie back in the bottle. Gotta let it go.
I was like, okay, I'll let that one go. And anytime something like that, so that's really, I think I'm retraining myself. So when something like that comes up, oh yeah, there's the clarity on those moments. It's a retraining of, Anything to look at? Or am I just letting it
Nah.
flow out? Nah. Okay. Nah. And I even said that to something my husband asked me this morning. It was like I can't even remember what it was, but he asked something and I was like, nah. And it came out just the way I hear it in my head. I was like, not important.
Right.
And that's changed. I will say in the past 48 hours, that has changed a lot in my whole perspective of everything, you know,
Right.
because I realized there are a couple of things that were sort of hidden under some rocks for me, you know, little things that were just that was with a nest. They came up when they came up, and it was like, what do you care?
Right. Right. Yeah. When you say that, I envision like you're at the West Coast versus the East Coast, the ocean and full of rocks. And instead of having to turn them all over, you can just enjoy the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Do I need to go to everyone? Nope. Nah. Enjoy the bigger piece. So, yeah, and we have so much embedded in the idea that if we don't follow all the rules put out by other people, right?
Right.
Our spouses, our kids, our, parents, our HOA, our society,
Right.
at large, our, our country, our state, our whatever, then we feel like we are unsuccessful. We feel like,
Right. Or you can say the word, we're a failure.
yeah. Yep. Yep. And so because then we feel like if we're not loved by all of them, which, like you said, oh God, there's so much yawning here today.
I know I've caught myself a couple of times.
This is a big one. But so many there's it goes back to that whole thing of this is a big one collectively, is that feeling like we have to be loved by everybody or else we're a failure.
Well, and when you look at it in terms of all the extreme polarity that's going on, it's like I need to have everyone believe the way I believe so that I feel good about myself.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Is I need to have everybody, love me, support me, because I don't for myself.
Right.
So I'm putting it on everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it was funny because one of the things that I've been looking at is, what I've felt off and on has been, I have nourished myself. I have loved myself. And then I was like, well, then why am I still being punished? Like, well, like, I feel like then I would get punished in some way, shape, or form by others around me. And then I realized because I believed at some level for doing that, I needed to be punished.
Right.
I needed to take punishment, and sacrifice, like that's my sacrifice so that I would do my self-love and self-nourishing. And I'm like, well, then that's still not it 100%.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So duh, now I can be successful in that so that I can do that with, freely of, in a way, like I keep on saying, free of, or just transcendent to any punishment, transcendent to anything that would hold me back.
Right. Right.
And actually, in saying that, then it's like, well, then I create stuff that I have to be transcendent to. So then just say, nope, just free flow.
Right. And you really can just focus on the navigation.
Yes.
Because if you don't have to worry about all those things that you are creating, you can literally just focus on that free flowing success in the definition of what you believe success to be now.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And here's a big one. Oh, I'm only successful if I've overcome a whole bunch of obstacles and I've only had the hero's journey and all that kind of stuff. And it's like,
Right.
How about I'm successful right now already, where I am right now?
Right.
and I have fun and it's easy and it's flowing and I get everything possible from everything I create. So therefore it doesn't matter whether it's positive, like expansive or limiting or whatever.
Right. Judge successful in someone else's eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So what a different, that just feels so free. Like cleaning the slate is what I hear. It's just like wipes out a whole bunch of stuff on the board.
Right.
Then you're you know what? Then your vision board just becomes a picture of you.
Right. Right.
All right. Well, I guess we're done solving the world's problems now.
I know. All done.
All right. So what's our clearing for our creation statement for today? I am successful, right? I am worthy to allow myself to, well, I'm worthy to remember to allow myself to acknowledge and live my success in every moment.
Oh yeah.
That feels good.
That
Simple,
feels real good.
simple and
Yeah, right.
powerful.
Right. Absolutely.
All right. So everybody, let's be comfortable. Let's close our eyes and take a deep breath as we expand our hearts and step out of separation back into wholeness and oneness. As we set ourselves at the vibration where that is our truth, that is from where we exist, create, and experience. All right. That was really nice.
Wow.
So powerful.
Right. I got so hot.
I just started seeing
Whew.
things in these little bubbles that were like, the boba bubbles, like just started seeing them like in bubbles. And I was like, well, let's look at that. And it's like, okay, well, you're a success at this and da 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 and da da. When you shift this, that just goes pop and then it's gone. And I was like, oh, look at how easy that is.
Right.
And then I saw the bigger, like these big thing of bubbles, like at the collective. And it was like, well, if we all started looking at things that way, it was like pop, 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 pop. Like, look, we just took care of an entire level right there. And then oh my God, it felt so good. It would almost tickled, it was really nice.
Right. I saw there was a commercial that I'd seen on TV this weekend, and it was a big drawing of like, it looks like a bicycle, motorcycle line drawing. And they have a pen and they touch it and it says thoughts and ideas become things. And as soon as the pen touches the paper, it turns into this motorcycle. I have no idea what the commercial is for, because that right there, the ideas and thoughts become things. So I saw that out there. And then it was like everything I imagined. I had oh gosh, I forgot what they're called, like a label maker. And I would say success, and I would print the label and I would put it on. And it was turning everything in, everything I thought about, everything I did, everything I touched, and I would just label it a success, and it totally changed it. And it was as if nothing else was required. It allowed it to just flow forward just like that. That was incredible.
Nice. That's incredible. Yeah, that's really,
Really nice.
Oh, okay. Did our work for today.
Right. Seriously.
Our fun play work, all the same. Because that's successfully what it is for me.
Right. Right.
So that's everyone's task for this week is, look at all that. Look at what you have. Look at what you've created and then ask yourself, well, where is it a success for me? Because it's already there. It is successful.
Right. It already is. So where can you start acknowledging that?
Yeah. When you're saying, okay, so having this in my life is a success in this, in showing me this and reminding me of this, of, whatever. And when we start seeing things that way, it's almost like, what do they call it? Reverse engineering, right?
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
And then you get back to that core place and then you start from there and say, okay, and now success in this moment and in all my moments forward is this.
Yeah. Very playful.
So much fun to play with. Yeah, absolutely. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us. Have a great week. We will see you next time. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg Avignoni.
signing off with this week's Ascended World. Have a great one.